Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's Market Wrap. Now as you can see from the background, I am not in Philly, but in beautiful Colorado. I'm finally on vacation with the family, spending an awesome week, fly fishing, hiking, and playing golf. I could really get used to this. Now, three watches that came across my desk this week that I really love, and the first one is a Patek Philippe. It's the 5522A, the New York limited edition steel Calatrava. This came out in 2017. It's a 42 millimeter, 600 piece limited edition, blue dial, automatic movement. I think these are super collectible. I think these are just going to go up in value over the next few years. Now the second piece is an Audemars Piguet, and it's the 15500 ST. It's the 41 millimeter, most current version of what I consider one of the most iconic watches in the world. I love the black dial on this one. These are impossible to get new, so I think this is one that's not going to last very long in the collection. And the last piece is a Panerai, and I feel like we don't talk about Panerai very much on Market Wrap, and I think that's a mistake. This is a real interesting one. It's the PAM 26. It's an early reference, but it's not the original from 1998 or 99. It's actually a reintroduction they did in 2008. It was a limited edition, 1,000 piece, PVD, left-handed. I love this watch. It's kind of a classic design. I think the best of what the early Panerais were. So last week we spoke about the strength of the market, and I had really read two interesting articles this week that made me further believe the market will continue to gain strength and popularity. So we're all familiar with Chrono24. It's one of the largest marketplaces in the world, and they did their third capital raise last week. They raised 100 million euros. The thing that really made the headlines was Bernard Arnault's company, Alger Investments, which is connected to LVMH, was part of the fundraise. Now, LVMH has been a big part of the watch business for years, but their aggressive involvement of going into the valuation of Chrono24, kind of boosting it up to that billion-dollar valuation, it's apparent that more and more money is coming into the space, more private equity is taking an interest in watches, and I think understanding that this market's continuing to grow and long-term the future is very bright. Now the second piece of news I read last week was also a very interesting development, and it was an announcement of the sale of a Philippe Dufour Grande and Petite Sonnerie, one of only 8 ever produced, and that was sold by a collected man for £5 million. Now this is an epic number. It is over $7 million US. Now this is number 3 that was made. Most people, including myself, consider Philippe Dufour kind of the grandfather of independent watchmaking. He's assumed and kind of accepted as being the finest living watchmaker today. I believe that as well. I think it's incredible to see the numbers of his pieces really skyrocketing. And it's showing that the interest in independent watches is here to stay. This is a top 10 result ever. And it's the first time we've seen an independent really get into this kind of evaluation. Usually this is reserved for the Patek Philippe's or these really super rare pieces. But seeing rare independents test kind of the high end of the market, I think it's a great indication of where we're going to see the market go over the next few years, and especially for really high-end independents, Philippe Dufour, Journe, I think we're going to continue to see this market run. So as we've talked about crazy prices and market highs, I'd like to look at one of my favorite topics, MVP watches or Manjos value plays. Now these are watches that are a little overlooked, maybe underappreciated, and sometimes just off the beaten path, hiding in plain sight. So we're going to talk about 3 watches that I think just represent a great value. Now the first one is a Vacheron Patrimony Perpetual Calendar Chronograph, the 49005 in platinum. Now this uses a Lamania-based movement. It's a perpetual chrono, kind of the classic complication, very equivalent to a 3970 of its time. But this one is actually under $50,000. And for a platinum perpetual chrono that's also an automatic, represents an amazing value. Now, the second piece we're going to talk about is a Jaeger-LeCoultre. This particular piece is a perpetual calendar in stainless steel, a 37 millimeter, with a gorgeous black dial. And it's sub $14,000. I think it's an incredible value. And the last of my picks is an Audemars, and particularly the Jules Audemars. Now this is a 26100 BC, so it's a white gold version of the 2-register chronograph. It's a great size, 41 millimeters. Has one of the prettiest dials you'll see on any watch. It's actually enamel. Absolutely beautiful. And for an enamel dial, 2-register chronograph from one of the top manufacturers for under $25,000, to me represents an incredible value. And I think we'll look back in a couple of years and whoever picks this one up will be very happy. So that was this week's Market Wrap. Hope to see you next week.